Yeah, right now I can tell that this isn't, there may be a happy story at the end, but I can tell it's gonna make it be earned, especially for anything involving, the Garlands. Alphino's monologue about this really gets to me. About how old people want things to be all about the fundamentals and the basics, a stone is a stone, a cloud is a cloud. Just how older people refuse to want to understand there's more depth to our existence, i.e. LGBTQ folks, the cultures and practices, especially when it comes to fundamentalist turfs. A man is a man and a woman is a woman in the story. It's like the story for this game is a clever commentary for how generations are always in conflict. Yeah, and, when they point towards, when he pointed towards, they're inheriting their belief structure and everything from their own fathers. You and I both know this. We all know this, but just to restate, bigotry and black and white thinking isn't exclusive to old people, and not all old people think that way. But it's that is one area where the nurture thing comes in, I believe, because if you're a shitty bigot with a really blinders on, narrow worldview, you're gonna be passing that on to your kid, or even to people around you that are still learning things, and that doesn't mean that kid is going to become that way, but it means that short of any way out of that, short of any other way of learning or learning anything else, they're going to be that way, which, I mean, tinfoil hat and everything is a bit of why I think there's, the constant attacks on the public school system within the United States, because if you ensure that your kid won't learn anything in school beyond 1 + 1 = 2, and ensure that anything in the library in the school doesn't go against the values that you personally want, then that means you can ensure no matter what that your child is going to be exactly, not just your child, but your child and every other child is going to be exactly a carbon copy of yourself and your own beliefs. And that comes into play here as well. And yeah, the black and white thinking of you're a savage because you're not part of our group. If you won't comply with what our nation believes, then you're a savage. If you won't comply with what our nation believes, then we'll force you to do it, so or destroy you in the event of it. And I do also think that those statements do also apply in a broader sense to war in general. You look at the U.S. The U.S. has been both isolationist and conquesting at different points in its existence, and I mean each of those did fall into exactly the kind of things laid out here. Of either, look at our spreading democracy around the world. That's a if you're not believing what we believe, if you don't practice the religion that we practice, if you don't step in line with what we want, then we're going to spread democracy on your country for free, and it's gonna hurt and burn a lot, probably. But then we've also had our isolationists, where we, that was what, World War II. That was part of why we didn't get involved for so long. Was we got all isolationist of it's everybody else's problem. We're here just to protect our way, our very specific way, our very white and very supreme way, and we don't want to get involved in anything else. And even what with everything happening in the Holocaust and all the other atrocities going on, we didn't give one single goddamn shit until we got attacked ourselves. And then we're like, oh yeah, fuck it, we're gonna go knock some heads. But we got to I feel like we got to, after the fact, make a rewrite on history and frame it as though our involvement was that we were trying to stand up for the people being oppressed and murdered and all that. But I mean, really, it was more just, hey, your buddy bombed us, so we're gonna beat you up, and then we're gonna beat up your buddy. That's more what it was. So I suppose what I meant to say were old values necessarily. But yeah, that's and. I'll point out what my grandpa says is that, because remember, my grandpa, he's been alive long enough to see both World War II. He's been alive long enough to see both World War II before it even began, and see video games about World War II. And he's been alive long enough to see World War II before it began, and World War II video games, and the remastered HD remakes of those World War II video games on next-generation consoles. And he says that, he always thought that this town would, once the old fuckers died off, that it would get better. That once they died off and kids got in, everything would get better, but it didn't. And it's specifically because of that. Like, here in a small town, who took over when the old ones died? Their children. And their children operate it and run it in the same way that their parents did, or their grandparents did. And, yeah. It's that, I know there's a specific term for it. I can't remember exactly what the term is, but, racism itself, or bigotry of any type itself, isn't genetic, so therefore it's not hereditary in the sense of passed by genes, but it is hereditary in the sense of how it gets passed down by by your elder family members and by your community, and values that your community upholds and instills in, which is again a reminder of how horrible and terrible life can be in how horrible and terrible your life can be very much dependent on your geographical location. Where you were born, where you were born determines everything. Hi, Audie. Yeah, we're just talking about racism in general right now, and how it relates to the story here. But you may not be able to hear my voice because you probably came in muted and said hi. So you didn't get spoiled, but hi, if you can see me, hi and welcome. I still think a big factor of how your life turns out is dependent simply on where you were born. Where you were born is where you were born instantly. It's like where you were born is the equivalent of starting up a some RPG campaign and having it just do random rolls for all your base stats. That's kind of how it's like geographically, and that I don't know if that gets there's the nurture v nature debate. I don't know if geographical location of birth and residence for childhood falls under nurture or nature, or if that would be classified as a completely different factor, as a third factor. And that itself is also very much generational. I mean, a great point is a great point would be the what do you call it? Like the liquid wealth of, for example, black families. The fact that black people for so long couldn't own anything, and then when they were legally supposed to be allowed to own stuff, they got redlining against them, and then even after that point, there's still modern redlining. There's still redlining that happens, even if it's technically skirting the law and not technically illegal, but it's redlining. But shit like that, plus the fact that black people were treated as less than people, and therefore a lot of older black people didn't have birth certificates for various reasons, means that there's less inherited wealth that happens. There's less, I want to say liquid wealth. So because you're far less likely when you're not white to be able to inherit something like land or a house compared to a white person. Which just to be clear on with my uncle dying and all the stuff we've been talking about, I know we've been joking about I get the house here, but just to be clear, I'm fully aware of the privilege I have that I'm going to, when Grandpa dies, I'll have a house I can live in. It's not a mansion. It's not it's not even 2 stories, but it's still a house. It's still a house that I will own with the little bit of land around it. It's still a place I will own and have, which immediately gives me an asset. And the half the farm that I get when that happens. That's a kind of, I guess you'd say, unrealized privilege. It's a privilege that I don't have full access to yet, but it's a privilege that I'm going to get regardless, unless I kick the bucket first, which I'm hoping not to. Anyway. The fact is that there's less generational inherited liquid wealth among non-whites in America because of just the amount of systemic racism and everything that happens, and because of that, I think that reinforces the effect that your geographical location of birth and residence in childhood has on you, because probably there's a good chance that where you're going to be at is where your parents are at, is where your grandparents were at, and it's because it could be because they just choose to keep living there and they like it, but it also very well could be that they've just never had any amassing of wealth to be able to move, to be able to go, to be able to get to a better place, and that means you're stuck with whatever's there. For me, I got out of here. I went to other places, but for my own failings, I ended up back here. But my mom, she's been here. She's never left. The furthest she moved away was half an hour and then came back. My grandpa, his parents, grandpa's grandpa, all of them, this has always been this has just been where they always have been. And in fact, for our family, almost stalks myself there. for the redacted family name, we've always been in this area. Always been here. Ever since the first of the family, got smuggled in on a ship long ago. But that has mostly been a choice. There have been some that have left, and that's mostly been a choice that they made. They just wanted to be here because it's been a family thing of you're going to be a farmer, and if you're not a farmer, you're going to be something that supports farming, or you're going to be a housemaker for a farmer. That's just how it is. I know I had a bigger point to all this. I did take Adderall today because I woke up late and I didn't want to take an Adderall in the afternoon and make myself stay up even later. Overall point, I think racism sucks. There's generational reasons why it sucks. Black and white thinking is really dumb. With obvious exceptions of fuck Nazis. If you're a Nazi or you associate with Nazis freely and openly, fuck you. But in general, black and white thinking and reducing everything to the bottom sucks and it's dumb, and that gets used because I would say that there can be a tiny bit of some sympathy which is that problems in the world are really fucking difficult sometimes. Solving problems and just thinking about them is really fucking difficult because they can be really goddamn fucking complicated. Like, just changing, I mean, some of the things that impact us directly, that can be so fucking hard to think about and wrap your mind around. And so I can get wanting to make things black and white to make the world easier to understand for yourself. But it's bad. It's bad, and it causes problems. It causes problems because then you're becoming more susceptible to a very exploitable type of groupthink. You're becoming more susceptible to bigotry. You're going to approach everything like that, and it's not going to end out well. But there is the tiny sympathy of being able to understand that, because the world is fucking complicated. We are built off chaos. Chaos is everything. And that's just how it is. Wow, I've been ranting for so long, my controller shut off. So yeah, that's Caro's rant of the day.